This video contains content sponsored by John Wilson Blades and MK Blades. Opinions discussed in this video do not reflect the views of John Wilson or MK. Hello and welcome to the Skating Lesson, Olympian 360. I'm Jennifer Kirk.
And I'm Dave Lees. And originally we did our first gymnastics interview with Shannon Miller. Today we're going to interview Shannon's original rival, the first world all-around champion from the U.S. She's a 3-time national champion, 2-time American Cup champion. She won the U.S. versus USSR. She won the USA versus Romania. She won gold.
She won a lot of stuff, people.
Yeah.
She's very meritorious. Do you remember when I tried to throw that into our Rudy Galindo interview?
Yes. She once did 4 whipbacks and threw to a double back.
And she had that really good rock around the clock floor routine. I like that one.
So we are all set. We hope you're as excited for this interview as we are. Kim, welcome to the Skating Lesson. We are so thrilled to have you.
Thank you.
We recently passed the 100-day mark and the countdown to Rio. So at this point in 92, how do you remember feeling at this point, 100 days out?
Well, we had just finished the first individual event World Championships. So I was actually a little bit ready for a little down dip, which is kind of strange, I guess, when you're thinking like it's such a big year and so much excitement. But it's interesting because right now I feel like we have the same sort of thing just happened with, this team of girls who just competed at Pacific Rim, kind of the same thing. They kind of, it's kind of nice actually, because there's a buildup, a natural buildup, and then I think you need to come a little bit down to be able to go back up again, to peak so high at the Olympics. And that's really what I remember about this time frame. Everybody was going, it's so close, and I was going, I need a break.
I'm ready. Yeah, come down a little bit. Well, yesterday, Kim, it was Mother's Day, and we saw your mom on TV. Often during meets, they would pan to her in the audience, played a huge role in your career. So how is she doing now? How did you guys spend the day yesterday?
Well, actually, my Mother's Day yesterday was spent with my gym babies because we had a national championships that was for our junior Olympic program. So level 10s had nationals yesterday, which was actually fantastic through the weekend. Had to send my mom a nice text, and we kind of did a pre-Mother's Day event earlier last week. But I really lucked out as far as like having a true mom of an athlete. I feel like her job was to love me and to keep opening doors for me, but at the same time, she realized that it was me who had to walk through them. And she always left, any of the stuff that happened in the gym was between me and my coaches or me and my teammates. But she was always there for a hug or anything that wanted to spew out of my mouth as I was venting.
Moms are good like that.
She had 90s hair on TV, too.
Oh,
she always had, like, the fashion down.
A spectacular do, huh?
Yes. Well, you said that you got into gymnastics because your babysitter's daughter took gymnastics classes and you tagged along. So how much did your parents rue that day once their lives started to revolve around the sport?
Well, it's funny because obviously I'm still very involved. Gymnastics is still my life. It wasn't until afterwards that I realized, I was like, I really hope that they at least like gymnastics. Like I kind of drug them along all of this stuff because, like you said, they were never the ones who just said, hey, gymnastics, let's put, Kim in this. So it's kind of nice since then that, my parents haven't missed championships of the USA. They have their Olympic trials tickets and, everything. So like, that was like, oh, it's good. Like they actually like the sport. But at the same time, I'm just very thankful that it was my thing all along.
Yeah. They didn't put that pressure on you. You were competing and performing for yourself.
Right. Honestly, I talk about like when I would go in frustrated or this and that, like I, was having a bad day or was hurting or whatever it was. And I still remember like the only kind of solution outcome they would calmly say, okay, well, if you want to go in and tell them, that you're done. And I was like, what? Like, no, I'm just having a bad day. Like, stop it. Like, but it was always like, whatever you want, like is good. And, we'll help you if this is still what you want to do.
Well, Kim, when did you first meet the Karolyis and what were your initial impression of them?
I was probably 7 years old at the time when they had just moved to this country. They were in the process of buying the building of the gym that I actually started at. Like, so there was so many parts of this that was not like me or my family pursuing high-level gymnastics, that they just kind of happened upon that space that I was already doing gymnastics in. And I just remember like they did, there was like an exhibition event they put together, which Bella always was about performances and everything. And he got out in front of all the parents and started with one of his big speeches. And I remember sitting around the floor looking at my friends like, I can't even understand this guy. Why is he such a big deal? Like, I had no idea who they were. And, obviously I very quickly caught on that they seem to be pretty big in this sport and look like they know what they're doing.
Now, you came up through their Hopes group. So how were you selected for Bella and Marta's Hopes group?
Yeah, so again, I was one of the, I started gymnastics 6 years old, and they, I guess, saw that I had a little muscle body and was a quick kid, and so they picked me amongst, I think there were about 8 of us at the time, that they started this little group that they called the Hopes team. And it was just, me and a couple of my friends that happened to have some sort of potential that they saw, whether it was, like I said, I think this kid can run pretty fast or she's flexible. And they put us all together and kind of started as their first team.
So of the original 6-pack, who, I guess, made it, through Elite that was in the Hopes group? Were you the only one, or did anyone else make it from there?
Let's see. Made it from the very original group. Hillary Grivich, actually, was on the 1991 World Championship team as well. And we were both kind of, one of the only, actually the only, I think, thinking back, ones that were actually from Houston. She actually was from Huntsville, actually, where our national team training camps are, which is a little less than an hour away from that gym. But we're the only 2 that were like originals, like from that area that weren't, somebody who, uprooted their life and, moved to try to make, the best they could out of their gymnastics.
Well, you talk about Kim kind of stumbling upon this career. It wasn't something that your parents pursued or that you really had those big Olympic dreams when you started out. But was there a moment when you were young and kid coming up through the sport where you realized, okay, like I have talent. This is actually something that could become something?
Well, I will certainly never forget Mary Lou Retton winning the all-around gold medal. That was huge for me because I was training at that gym. And I hate to even say training. I was doing gymnastics at the time. I was 8 years old and bouncing around off the walls. And honestly, I didn't really have a grasp of even what the Olympics was at that time. Like, it was just watching the event was cool because I was like, oh, I've seen that. Like, that girl's on TV and I see her like in the gym. But it wasn't until afterwards that like the aftermath of that success and all of the media attention and everybody coming into the gym and commercials and, cereal boxes and all kinds of craziness that, I think that kind of turned it on to like, oh, wait, so this is more than just jump around. Like there's a lot to this. So that was the first kind of like real spark of like, wow, like gymnastics is this what's around me, but it's also something much bigger than that. But I would say over those next 4 years, was probably when it kind of really turned on. When I was 12 years old, that next Olympics actually was my first year as an elite. Was during the Olympic year in 1988. So I think that was probably the first time that, like, again, I watched it as I want to be there next time.
You speak about Mary Lou being in the gym, and growing up you have Mary Lou, there's Phoebe Mills, Kristie Phillips. So would you watch them and catch glimpses of them working out, and did you follow all of their meets and their results when you were a kid?
Absolutely. I mean, I could probably still do their routines behind me if you want to see them. No.
Please do.
No. Yeah, you really don't want to see that. But
we actually kind of did.
We would mimic them, stand in line. I mean, we would play them. I mean, it was, like some kids play house and mom and dad and all that stuff. Like we did okay, well, I get to be Phoebe this time and I get to be Kristie, and like, we'd make up routines and stuff like that. My best friend actually I'm still best friends with her. She has a dance studio nearby me over here. Like, we joke about that still all the time.
Now, training with these women and then seeing them on television winning nationals, going to the Olympics, doing so well. Did that make it more normal for you in terms of a achievable goal? Because I know in skating, when I would train with skaters that I would see on TV and then they'd come back to the rink on Monday, it really motivated me to think, okay, this is doable. This is something. So did you find that for yourself? And then when it happened, did it seem a little bit, and not anticlimactic, but like expected in a sense?
Yeah, no, that's exactly. And one side, I'm so very thankful for that, because it was the normal thing. It wasn't this imaginary, I mean, like I always say, to me, it's almost like you see we see actors on TV, in movies or big thing like that. They don't seem actually real. Like they're not the same as us. They're human, but they're not like, they're different than us or something. Like Olympic gymnasts were normal to me. It was normal. So it looked like, just keep following the steps put in front of you, and this should equal that, and then that should keep going. So I definitely think in a very positive way, like I think it's been looking back on things that even like being in the Olympics, like I hate to say it wasn't a big deal at the time. That sounds absolutely terrible, but at the time it was just the next step. Like it was, well, I've already done these steps, and I saw those two generations do the exact same steps, and this is where that went. I think it wasn't until, like I said, like years later, and especially as a coach and, really striving to help these girls to become their best, that I think it's kind of hit me of like, wow, that was
really hard. Yeah.
That's a very big deal.
Yeah. Well, growing up, you worked with Rick Newman at Bella's gym and other coaches. So when did you really start working with Bella and Marta?
It was after that championships in 1988. So they finished that generation of going, following through the Olympic Games. And then I moved into their group that was right after the season had ended. And they've kind of always were doing that of like finish one generation and have the next one ready to go. And so me and my teammates kind of one by one kept trickling into that team.
How intimidating was it when you first started working with them?
Well, that's back in like the caller ID days. Like, so I can still remember like running to like hear the phone ring, run to the kitchen, look on the thing. It says Bella Karolyis on the caller ID, and I was like, I remember like ran away. I didn't actually answer. I think he actually had to call back, because I ended up telling my mom like, you're gonna have to answer the phone. It's like, I think Bella is calling. Like, I was so scared. So, I mean, even just the invitation was kind of freaked me out. But definitely even just starting on the team, because Phoebe Mills was still on the team. She was still training. Shelly Stack. Like, so, I mean, it was definitely intimidating. Like I said, it was kind of happening one by one. They didn't do like an overhaul, like, okay, all these girls are moving. They did it one at a time. So my teammate Amy Shear was the first one to move in. So honestly, that was really nice, because she was kind of my connection right from the beginning of like, okay, we're the same. Like,
yeah, we're in it together. Get through this.
We're doing what they've done. Let's go in here one thing at a time. But they were, honestly, especially Phoebe was, just so helpful with making us feel good, because, she was the biggest age gap.
Well, you talk about joining that group after the 88 championships. So what do you remember from that event? Because that was your first time at nationals. Was it something where you thought, again, this is the next normal step to come join Bella and that group?
Yeah. Well, fortunately, I had a pretty good championships. It wasn't fantastic. It was good. I ended up making the national team. Again, I think I was like the last spot on the national team that first year, but all I was happy about, again, it was my second meet that Marta and Bella Karolyis were actually there in the building. The first one was the classic meet. That was the qualifier to get to the championships, same like it still is today. And I fell on 3 of the 4 events. So I think I was just as nervous to impress them, knowing that was, again, my goal, my dream of like, that would be the next step. Like, I want to be on their team. I think just as much as I wanted to be on the national team. So I do remember, at least like I went through and I was like, good, I had a good 2-day competition and ended up making the national team.
Well, Bella often talks about your speed and your competitive ability. So was it like that from the beginning? Did you crush it as a class gymnast?
No. I was fast kid. Like I definitely think that part was always there. I guess the big calves have to be good for something from the, from the very beginning. But I think I grew into being competitive pretty early, but it definitely wasn't from the very, very beginning. I mean, actually the year that I was a class 1, which I guess is now like the equivalent of like a level 10 as a gymnast. Same, like I missed making it to the national championships because I fell off the beam, I grabbed the beam, and I sat down on my beam dismount. So it wasn't like it started from the beginning of every time I went, the stars all aligned and everything was great. But I do feel like once I kind of got in my groove, as I think probably actually starting at that championships in 1988, I think that was kind of a nice turning point. I don't know if it was just the confidence of making a national team and feeling like, I'm doing a good job and so I should believe in myself. But that, I think, kind of turned the tide into more consistency.
Well, that summer, Phoebe Mills went to the Olympics and she won a bronze on beam. The team controversially lost the bronze.
Right.
What was it like to be watching and also knowing that when the Karolyis got back home from Seoul, their attention was going to be on you and it was going to be your moment?
I was very excited about that. I mean, it was, like I said, it was something that I had looked at for many years that I wanted to have happen. And especially, I mean, that was the first, like, really that year was like, I kind of understood better what was going on. I still remember crying because I wanted Daniela Silavash to win the gold medal. Like I was sobbing, like didn't mean like that was like I was just like so in control, like so aware of like the magnitude of what this event was, and just was in love with her combination of power and style, and just it was everything I wanted to be too. So I think I was pretty anxious for it to, them to come home and look at us little guys and say, all right, next time, next generation.
Well, one of the stories about you from that time was that you weren't always great in the gym, but you could put it together under the lights. You were great under pressure. Why do you think that was?
Oh, gosh, I'm still trying to figure that out as a coach, and trying to help. Like, I feel very fortunate that I just felt comfortable in it. I still feel comfortable in it. Like, even as a coach, like it's my husband and I were just talking about it yesterday, that in between our sessions of like, it's just so interesting that in that environment, like I feel different. Like it's, I feel like there's such a different energy to like being able to narrow in and like just know it's going to be a certain way. Like it's hard, honestly, on the outside now as a coach to not feel like I can make this happen right now. Like, do you know what I mean? Because I still stand on the side and like I still have those same feelings. Like it's hard to explain. Like it doesn't happen that way always in the gym. I definitely felt prepared always leaving the gym, and I think that was kind of the deal. Definitely wasn't perfect, but it was prepared. So I felt like I could still I knew things could get a little bit better. And I feel even the same when like I said, when I coach, that I go there, like my expectation goes to like, I know they can do this, but if we can just zero in, like they're going to get it much better. And I think that's what it is to be a great competitor.
Well, girls from the gym where you train often said that Bella, he would turn his back on you and ignore you to kind of motivate you. How often would he do that? And in what ways would that motivate you? Like, how did that get under your skin?
Well, it definitely was the way to get under my skin. I felt like I needed constant, like, corrections, approval, attention, like keep watching me. I used to always joke, even Marta didn't do that. Like that wasn't our relationship back and forth, but I always wanted to be on that beam right in front of her nose. Like, she stood on one side and I wanted to be that first one, like talk to me. Bella, we kind of played games, I think a little bit more. There was a little more a tug of war of like, I want you to do this. I don't know if I should do that. Like, then playing some, kind of silly teenager games with him, but the worst thing that could ever happen was that he would stop talking. I just couldn't handle it.
So is this still an effective method of getting what someone wants out of you? Does it work for your husband?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I think he knows better than that.
He's learned. Yeah.
Definitely. No, I mean, we've had definitely some conversations of like, I keep talking, he's like, please stop. I'm like, no, just say something now.
Like, I need more. Yeah.
It's gone away.
Well, in 1989, you won the Olympic Festival, which served as the Junior Nationals that year. And your group was dubbed the Six Pack, you, Hillary Grivich, Erica Stokes, Amanda Urich, Kelly Pitson, and Amy Scher. So what do you remember about the personalities in that group?
It was so fun. Like, I have such great memories of having great teammates, like great gymnasts, but like great friends. I mean, we did everything together. We were in school together. We were classes, like all of our classes were arranged because we went to private school, like to make everything work. And so we were put together all the time. We'd finish a training on Saturday afternoon, and it was immediately, okay, whose house are we going to tonight? And like, what movie are we seeing together? You know, who's, going to pick us up to go here and there. I mean, I'm just so thankful to have had that. Like, those are still my friends. Actually, Erica Stokes just recently moved to the Dallas area, and so I see her. Actually, I just saw her this morning. She brings her little boy to my gym and stuff. I mean, those friendships are still there. Kelly Pitson was coaching at the competition yesterday, and so we just kept finding each other and having reasons that we needed to talk together. So, I mean, I'm thankful for what we were able to help each other with back then, which there's just, you can't say too much about what the importance of having great support, and whether that's like side by side with you, which I think is still the very best, of having a teammate who knows when it's, their time to either push you by them doing a great job or just to lift you up. Like, it's an amazing thing.
Well, I spoke to Amanda Urich once, and she said that as much as the media liked to portray Bella as being super intense, that the group of you girls were all really competitive with one another. So how competitive do you remember it being in training?
Well, I definitely think it's a mix. It's definitely, it is a mix of, like, the group of girls or athletes, like, always are going to determine kind of the environment of that. I mean, I definitely know that the Karolyis, like, had set up, how they wanted their program to be. But each of the groups, I mean, like, I think, again, in hindsight, I look back of, like, Mary Lou's group, I don't think was the same as my generation's group. And I think we thought we were being like them, like, because I think it seemed on the outside like they're serious. But in looking back, I'm like, wow, that group seemed a lot more laid back, laughed a lot and whatever. Like, we definitely we created an intensity, I think, in there. And whether or not that's just kind of was our general personalities or not, that was the environment that we created, but in such a positive way of, again, Kelly and I ironically were talking about this yesterday about how crazy it was that we would see each other do something and you would sincerely applaud them, but it would get you like inside of like,
I want to do that.
I need that. Like, I want that too. But in such a great way.
Do you think training in that high intensity environment is the quickest way to improve? Is it something where Gabby and Simone, should they train together, would you say, before Rio?
Well, I do think that our national team camps do that. Like, they absolutely do that for everybody. So I think it's kind of, it creates a world that some people don't have in their everyday. But at the same time, some gymnasts have it on an everyday basis, but I think we have different personalities too. I think that, Simone is certainly not the same temperament as what I am. What gets her going is not going to be the same as what I have. So, I mean, that's where you have, like, even just looking at clubs across the country, everybody has kind of their own thing and their own style. You have to see what makes it work best for you.
Well, in 1990, you made the American Cup, which is a big deal for any gymnast. Now, back in the day, there were prelims and finals, with the finals obviously being the televised day. So you suffered a fall on bars the first day and had to dig deep to make those finals. So what do you remember about that competition?
Ironically, I don't remember falling.
Sorry, I'm bringing up bad memories. Oh.
No, it's a funny thing you say about that. Because again, it's just talking about things that, like, I tell my athletes even, I go, if it doesn't help you, forget about it. Yeah. Like, it's gone. Don't remember it. Not that I don't remember other very specific things. That one in particular, it's funny because I think, like, the page turned so quickly for me. Number one, I don't think I had an expectation of, well, I certainly didn't expect to win the competition, but it was such an honor and kind of surprise to be there. And, we were the first juniors to ever have an opportunity to compete at an American Cup. So it's just a great experience, a great opportunity in the first place. but it was nothing to lose. Like that is one thing I do remember going into it, like, just go full out. Like, this is great. Like, it's so cool that we're here with, these, our senior national champions.
Well, you did win that meet, and championship served as a showdown between you and Brandy Johnson. So how bent on winning nationals were you at that time in your career?
Again, it's good to be naive. It's in some ways, like, I feel like I went into that, again, like I'd done the junior championships. However, it was not formatted in a way that seemed even something similar. So it didn't feel like it went from like one to the next. It just seemed like, again, it was another meet. It was another meet, and it just kind of step by step. Like, I don't remember there being pressure to do anything. I don't remember me having an expectation other than I every meet that I ever went into ever, I just remember looking around going, wow, she looks really good. Whoa, she's doing good stuff. Like, did I mean, like, I don't ever feel like I went in feeling like, whoa, I feel really great, and so this should happen. I feel like I always looked around thinking how great everybody else looked as well, and just stay here and do your thing.
Well, from that victory, you suffered the fate of having the expectations to stay on top throughout that quadrennium. How difficult is that for an athlete to then feel like, and did you feel those expectations of, I've won now, Olympics is coming up, I need to stay on top?
Honestly, going through it at the time, like during that stretch, it was all very positive. To me, it was more, it added confidence. Like, it didn't feel, again, whether it was just my age or whatever it was, that like, I didn't recognize it as pressure. I recognized it as that I started recognizing I show up at meets and more people knew who I was. They would say hi to me. I'd had more people cheer for me. Like, so I didn't really hear it in a negative way. Honestly, the harder part was years after, when I wanted to come back to gymnastics. Like, then I feel like I had now a perception of, oh, well, I should only go out there if I'm going to be
as good
winning.
as I was. Yeah.
I'm going to be winning. And it took me, I mean, how many years from 92 to 98 to get back out on the floor, where I finally was like, you don't have to win. Like, you love gymnastics, like, go do gymnastics. But it was, like I said, it was harder then than actually being in that window of time up through 92.
Well, you went on to the Goodwill Games that year, and it wasn't your best meet. There was talk of a wrist injury. Was your wrist injured? What was going on? How much did that affect you? And talk us through that meet.
We had a practice on Sunday before we left for the meet, the Goodwill Games that week. And I put my hand down on a round off on the ground for a vault, and my arm gave out. I didn't finish the rotation, went over to bars, and I couldn't put pressure on top of my hand. So that was on the Sunday before the meet that week. So it was definitely very question mark of, like, is this going to work? I ended up having a cortisone shot in my wrist, which also meant I had to take another day off of training, like, wasn't allowed to do that. And I'd never been through anything like that. The best thing that I kept being told by my coaches was, you're fully prepared, just have to have your hand just has to feel good. You're fully prepared, your hand just has to feel good. So I still remember that. And I absolutely, everything they said was like, meant everything to me, and it just felt like it needed to be stamped on my brain. So I'm so thankful for them telling me that, because I believed absolutely that was the case. I remember we still went through that first day of training there, and I couldn't do it. So I was happy that, by the end of the week, I could function with my hand. But ended up having a stress fracture in my wrist. Actually casted it, I think, 3 different times trying to help it, but I don't think it was my back and forth injury of, like, just kind of having to figure out when to do numbers and when to lay off. But it was, it was a good experience. So at the end of the day, and it's good for me, even as a coach, like, to remember always, like, you're not always going to feel great. We got to figure out, like, is it safe, and is there a way to work around it? And, can you do it even if you don't feel 100%? So it definitely was a good learning experience for me at the time. And I'm very thankful for the first day. First day was great. Actually, looking back, I was laughing at it, I go, all of the major events, I said, I think I had one day that I won, but never 2 days. Like,
consistency, yeah.
Sometimes it was on the day they were giving medals. Some day it was on the qualifying day. But it is what it is.
Well, we saw you in the all-around at the U.S. versus USSR to kind of end that year. So how big of a victory was that for you?
That was a big one, too, because that one was right after Goodwill Games, and I didn't get to train fully for that with my wrist. So I was doing very limited vault, especially. And actually, I think I got a 10, if I'm remembering correctly, on vault on that one, if I remember correctly. Because I still remember being, totally surprised. I think I probably looked like deer in the headlights when I landed. So I was like, did that really happen? I still remember going back, actually, because Amy Shearer was shaking her head how did you do that? This is bad. Should not have been able to do that. I wasn't last in the lineup even, because like I said, I wasn't vaulting. I think she was looking at me this is not fair. She wasn't doing these this week.
Well, that late fall and winter, you started to lose regularly to Betty Aquino, including at the American Cup. So what was kind of going on at that time?
Betty was my best friend in training. Oh my gosh. So, we said it to everybody, and it really was true. We were very competitive with each other, but if somebody else was going to win, that's who I wanted to win. She was a great training teammate. We're so different. I think that it was always very interesting to me. What is everybody looking for? Like I said, because our styles were not the same. I was happy for her. I mean, like I said, it's hard to not be when, especially when you train next to somebody and you can see the hard work and she was very consistent. Talking about consistency, she was probably one of the most annoying people to be teammates with on bars, which was my hardest one, that I was just praying to get through the assignment and she wouldn't have a miss, So, she definitely earned everything that she won.
Well, you talk about being so competitive with Betty, and I know just for my personality type, I couldn't be best friends with my rival. It wouldn't work. So how were you able to do that? Is it something that's just a testament to who you two are as people? Because I know you're still very close friends. I think she surprised you on your birthday last year. So how were you able to manage that friendship and keep those boundaries? Did that tension ever show up in your relationship outside of the gym?
No, not ever, not even a little bit. I think I just always had a healthy understanding that I know that we're a sport, but at the same time, we're creating our own art. We go out there and we do our thing. We both love to perform. Anybody who's a gymnast, I think, is kind of in that same boat of you kind of live for those performances. And if there can be I truly respect other people's work, what you do. So at the end of the day, I think I wanted the right person to be on top. I still feel like that. That doesn't mean I'm not competitive and still want it to be me. But it was always that.
Well, Bella openly questioned your motivation and your work ethic in the media and on television fluff pieces at that time. Typically, coaches never say anything bad about their athletes on TV. So how much was he trying to kind of get under your skin and light a fire with those comments?
Well, in looking back, I definitely know I went through my teenage phase. I again hate to keep bringing us back to coaching, but it's I feel like I bring it up all the time. I do not envy the period of life when you're as a gymnast that you're really trying to squeeze out the best. As a young girl, 14, 15 years old, I was changing and started again. It goes from having a respect for coaches where you just want to do everything that they say. I'm going to do everything to having your own ideas of I don't know, we need to do those. That one felt like it was good. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Stuff like that. Was definitely brewing in my mind, and I made it usually very, very clear, even though we weren't we didn't have a relationship of talking back and forth, body language of trying to show that I didn't think that it was right, or I felt like I did a good job and I didn't get acceptable praise. But honestly, it was good for me. At the time, I was not happy about it, but he stayed with still a support of me, as much as it was hard support. And I feel like I kind of grew through that one year in particular, that ended up being my best year of gymnastics. So I guess it all ended up okay.
In growing through that year, you defended your national title. How difficult is that to go back and to have to win that again?
To win back to back. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
I mean, I still feel like everything is individual. Like every competition is its own thing. And I really do. Like, I hate to be repetitive, but I feel like I was so fortunate that the Karolyis system was you be prepared for what you can do. They would try to put in challenges, like where the challenges can go, but if they're not 99% sure that it's going to be a hit, that we don't leave the gym planning to do it. So if you can just go about it that way, then we knew that was, the result should happen on its own.
How focused on winning all around were you as you were heading into Worlds? Was that something that was driving you every day during training?
I don't think that it was probably the driving force. But I think with the success that I had from winning national championships, and I had some international wins that were in Europe, and I think even Goodwill games, even though that on the all-around day I didn't end up winning, but that previous day gave me a lot of confidence that it was potential. But I really can't say that I went into it trying to win. Like, I went into it to do, as silly as it sounds, and I know every media person hates the whole just trying to go floor for floor. Like it literally, it's that simple. Like, you go in prepared and you do that, and then the cards fall where they fall. But I would be lying if I didn't say that I wanted it and that I knew somewhere back there that it was possible. So I guess it was a little bit driving force, but I never feel like it can be the thing to focus on. Like, it really needs to be like, stay present. Like, you go with, if you're on this workout rotation, you stay on that workout rotation. If you're on therapy, you stay on therapy. If you're on rest time, you stay on rest time. Like, have a good time and play with your teammates in the hotel room and stuff like that. Like, it really ends up being just, the more I think you can stay very present minded, the more likelihood that you have for a great outcome. And we don't ever talk about that. I still don't talk about that, even with the athletes that I have now that are striving for big goals right now. Like, there's not really a need for it. But at the end of the day, it still is possible, and it still is the goal.
Well, the team performed spectacularly, and it came down between the U.S. and Romania for that silver medal. And it all came down to you sticking that Yurchenko full for a 10. So walk us through that moment.
Well, I still remember marching to that last rotation. We passed by Romania, so it walked, it was like they were going one event, we were going over to vault, which was that was out of a movie. I do remember that, actually going this is one of those moments, and it stuck.
This is it.
But the vault warm-ups went over on the time for the team, so I didn't actually get to warm up my vault. I did a timer, but I didn't get the second vault. And I still remember even in that moment going, it doesn't matter. We're fine. This is going to be great. And just the energy in that arena was amazing. I will always be very thankful for that. But sticking that vault was just a fun moment. It felt like flying. It was one of those, ran as fast as I could, and it was flying. It's as best I can explain that it felt almost slow motion to the floor, see the ground and to stick. And again, probably my best memory of that was hopping down off the podium and Hillary Gurvich, out there waiting for me, was so happy. Actually, I think she saw the score before I did and was jumping up and down. So what a great moment, though, that was. I mean, I still even remember in interviews at the time, we kept having to correct ourselves because we kept saying about how we won, and that we didn't win the gold, but it was that silver was the gold for us at that time. Beating the Romanian team was huge. It was huge, and the first time we'd done that.
Well, the all-around competition is one that has been debated, I think, forever. It was such a close meet between you and Svetlana Boginskaya. It was the moment of your career. So walk us through what you remember from that day.
The whole thing. Let's see. Well, I started on vault again. And that one was always my favorite to start on because with the adrenaline rushing, it was nice to just feel just run as fast as you can, let it all out, and look for that ground and don't let your feet move. So it was a great event to start on. Bars was always I think what most people think of having to get up on that beam. It felt like probably the more balanced event to me than beam did. So I was very thankful to have made it through a very solid routine for me. I did like one of those like land and keep your feet there as long as you can, and then step back and smile to the judges. So again, the hope on that one was I hope that looked like a stick, and that I sold that very well. Then moving over to beam, again, just had to kind of take it down a notch and stay calm and stay trusting. The name of the game back then was no wobbles, stick your dismount. I mean, so I do actually remember in that arena, like it feeling windy over on that side of the venue, like for real windy. I'm not even just saying that because it was beam, but like a breeze up there.
Somebody turned the fan on to try to like throw you off a little bit.
That was right. But see, so I got through the beam routine. Got stuck the dismount, and then moving to floor, which was always my favorite as a competitor. So again, it just felt like it could go full out, and that is where I really enjoyed like having a crowd around me, because I felt like they helped kind of boost things up and give me that little extra energy. Going into the last pass, like again, I ran as fast as I could, and I remember finishing, and I couldn't hear my floor music at all. Like the crowd was so loud that I went through the final finish to the very end and ran off the floor. And I had my movie moment of Bill lifted me up, and I waved to the crowd. And I mean, it was quite. It's hard to explain. And at the end of the day, like now looking back on it, almost feels like another person. But it was a magical day. I mean, just from beginning to the end. But at the end of the day, I also don't think it was possible had it not been for our great team performance. And just very grateful to have the team that I had at that time, that we all kind of helped, piece by piece, put that team package together, which gave us that springboard going into the all-around finals.
Well, one of the media stories from the event was that there was a snubbing on the podium between you and Svetlana Boginskaya. So walk us through this in 15-year-old terms. Like, how aware of this were you?
Okay, I did not know that this happened. Okay, so apparently, and I had to go back and ask one of my friends too. This was actually Hillary, so I was like, I don't know what's going on. Why are they talking to me like this? I don't know what just happened. Because I recognized it backwards, that after during the awards for the all-around, Svetlana didn't congratulate me. And I just remember being like, that was weird. Like, okay. And of course, that caught immediate attention, that it looked very clearly like she wasn't accepting that this was the results and whatever. And I just, at the time, like I said, I was very naive to it, but it was kind of like, that was weird. Okay, moving on. Honestly, in our country, we don't do things like that. We don't do the shake everybody's hand. A lot of times in these meets, we're asked to get up on the words as fast as you can, ready, salute, and get off. Next group goes, ready, salute, and go. So, we even had to be told before we started doing these international awards that, okay, what the polite thing is, you need to go up and you need to shake everybody's hands. You need to figure out is it kiss on one side, is it kiss on two sides?
Is it a hug? Is it, yeah, what do we do?
So it was always kind of a stressful thing. But apparently what happened before, I don't know, that was, I think, floor finals that happened on, because it was afterwards that had happened. I guess on vault, which I did not have a great event finals on vault. So I was getting one of I think it might have been 7th, 8th, something like that. I was in the finals, so I got to go. I was called up there. But I still remember, I went through, there was, ties, and then I went back, and I didn't end up going back and forth, and I walked past her. It was absolutely unintentional. Like I said, I was not thrilled to be accepting the award in the first place. I was disappointed in the performance, and it was kind of silly. And the way that the girls were lined up, I walked past her, and I stood up on the podium. And then it ended up with, when we did the floor finals, she did the same thing, but everybody caught on. But Svetlana, honestly, is one of my favorite people there ever was and is. And she was so kind to me, even as a gymnast. I still remember a couple of times of having a rough performance, and I would see her, and she didn't speak English at the time very well, but made a clear effort to like the motherly person that we saw her with her teammates. She was the same even to me back then. I still remember in Barcelona that she was one of the first people that I saw walking out of the arena that, you know, she came up to me and was like, it's going to be okay. And honestly, she's one of my greatest friends right now. She lives here in Texas now, and we've all obviously had this conversation before. But, hey, by the way, like I totally didn't mean that.
My bad, yeah.
I'm sorry that the whole world thought that we were like, sure, it made for great media, but it was not sincere.
Well, and when you're so young, there's so much going on that you're just like, okay, I just competed, and you're in your own head of your own performance. That the last thing you think about are your competitors, the people around you. So it's understandable.
We were not that connected.
Doesn't sound like me. Yeah. Well, heading into 92, you now had Shannon Miller to contend with at the American Cup. At that time, how challenged did you feel by Shannon heading into that season?
Well, Shannon and I, that she's from Oklahoma and I'm Texas, like we'd seen each other growing up. I mean, we'd been at several meets together for several years, kind of going back and forth. At the time, there wasn't like, I'm so envious of what the current national team has, that there's a clear way to like bond with everybody, because after the fact, actually, like during the 96 tour, like Shannon became like one of my closest friends and realized like, wow, we're like really alike, like, and I really like her. But at the time, like it was definitely more about the clubs. And so, I mean, I was lucky that I had teammates like I did, but, you know, so we were always in one, and then Shannon was on her own. And we didn't really mingle too much at the time. But I definitely knew she was an amazing gymnast. So it wasn't ever a surprise to me to see, you know, her keep climbing the way that she did.
Well, you answered a lot of critics that year when you won two gold medals at the individual world championships on beam and floor in Paris. So the Olympics were still months away. How did that meet stack up for you compared to 91 Worlds, the Olympics? How important was that meet at the time?
Well, what was nice was that it was another meet that was in Europe. I feel like back in the day, like I did more meets, I think, that were overseas than what we have like for these current generation of girls. So I did have experience with having success in Europe. So I thought it was kind of strange that there was criticism of the World Championship title, but that event was held here in the United States. So like I understand it, I guess, like somebody wants to say there was something. So it meant a lot to me that we were given another opportunity to have another World Championships event before the Olympics, and that they were, you know, held in Paris, and that I had a good success there. I actually had qualified to bar finals, and the Karolyis were like, okay, that's enough. You did a good job. Let's move on. The likelihood of that continuing, probably not so great. Let's move on to beam and floor. And they didn't at the time want me to do an all-around competition and have the 4-event score, I guess, out on the table. So,
well, back then there wasn't Instagram or YouTube, so you couldn't really follow your competitors and what they were doing and kind of spy on them. So during podium training, did you pay attention to what the Soviets were doing?
Not at all.
So you didn't want to know? Did you? Was it one of those things where you didn't want to know, or?
The little glimpses that I ever saw of anybody was everybody is amazing. And I honestly, I don't know if that was good for me, just to, like I said, like keep me on my toes of like, it's like, you have to work very hard. Like, I mean, but at the end of the day, like, you know that, like I come in here, the game was with yourself, like how close to 10 will you get 4 times? I mean, that was the true game. I mean, I still remember it was, I've always talked about it like it was the battle of the 9 nines. Like it felt like a failure if like you somehow went in the 9/8, like your meet was over. I mean, we look back to all around finals for Barcelona. I started the meet with the 9/7 something or other, and that might as well have been an 8-0. Like, you know what I mean? Like I knew that moment of like, you have to try for that. So there really was no purpose to look around. And this is not, we're not in an offense-defense sport where what somebody does on the other side we have to defend against. Like, this is really how close are you to 10-0 every time.
Interesting. Now, in her book, Carrie Strug wrote about inner Karolyis drama that went down when she said on the TV broadcast that she was better than you in the gym a lot of the times. And she was trying to say that she was frustrated by her inability to beat you in competition. Now, we live for these moments on our show. You're teenagers. It is the Olympic year. How tense was it in the locker room after that broadcast?
Well, it actually, that TV broadcast aired when we were at the ranch together.
Did we all sit down and watch it? Was it like a family thing?
We were all on there are 2 couches and 1 chair, and we were all in a circle around that. It was just the most incredibly awkward.
Did you say anything?
No, we all were just like, okay. And so, did this just happen? But at the end of the day, I can attest to that. I had amazing teammates. They were consistent. I don't ever feel like I said, the one defense I do have, I don't feel like I ever left the gym not prepared to do a good job. I did have the tremendous gift, and I will say it is a gift, to be able to know, as long as I feel prepared, I can do even more when the green light goes up. But I can say with confidence that any day, any of my teammates could have and should have been the winner as well. And Carrie was definitely in that boat. So I can, especially in hindsight, I can definitely understand, how frustrating that would be to, especially when you're looking side by side with someone. And we did watch each other in training. Our teammates, I think, were the only people that we really knew, in detail, what they did extremely well, what they struggled with, where their little errors were. And so we watched that day to day. And Carrie was amazing. And she had every right to feel that way. It was just... Yes, it was a very awkward teenage moment, though, I will be honest.
Well, you easily won nationals that year, ahead of Carrie again, just saying. Now, at trials, you unveiled an upgraded floor routine with the whip to a double layout mount. So how long had you been working on that pass for?
That whole year. Because I think we had added it kind of piece by piece. So I started with the whip to full end because the full end was the one that I was doing. But I have to say, I think that's probably my one favorite piece of gymnastics I did ever in my whole career was that Olympic trials floor routine. I think in looking back, even of Barcelona, that was probably my biggest letdown was not having the opportunity to do that routine again. Because I was kind of, I was more on a get through place with my shin. So that Olympic trials floor routine was, like I said, even just looking back, if I would pick one piece of gymnastics, that would be the one I'd want to redo.
Well, Bella was very angry at trials because even though you beat Shannon, they weighted nationals and trials and they combined the scores together. So right. Even though Shannon just did trials, she wound up coming ahead of you in the rankings. So how big of a deal was that to you? Did it even matter to you or rattle you at all?
The only thing that made a difference to me was that it was being made a big deal. Mm-hmm. It was that it got very aggravating. I was obviously very confused because I had won both individually. How does that, how would that even work to make that happen? And then at the end of the day, why are we messing with this? Mm-hmm. Does it matter? Does it matter? At the end of the day, to me, that was frustrating. And I was frustrated for Bella because he seemed, like I said, very aggravated that was happening. He was seeing it more for future of so if you're going to do this, then this is how this is going to go down afterwards. To me, I just didn't understand it. The point of the Olympic trials was to make the Olympic team. And that was that. I didn't understand how you could put scores together though, and how you can win both, but then when you put it together, you didn't win. Like I said, it just didn't make sense.
Well, your close friend, Hillary Griffith, she had a really strong meet at trials, yet didn't make that team. How difficult was that for you to watch that happen? I just remember the shot of her and she's sitting on the mat and there's tears in her eyes. Someone that you're so close with and this was her dream for so long. How tough was that?
It's a very awkward, difficult thing to feel personally in a good place and then look at somebody that you love and care about. And Hillary, I'd known longer than anyone. Like I said, we were the only Hope's kids that, were I mean, she was, a couple years younger than me, and just kind of always felt like the young person coming up, but at the same time, like, so positive, and was a tremendous teammate, like, just was always very positive. To see her, especially because she was already, I think it's hard to make a world team and then not expect that to, like, if I do the same thing, I should have the same results. And I think looking back, like, that did make that day kind of uncomfortable. Like, there were several things around it. Betty Okino hadn't competed, so there was kind of an uneasiness to me for her as well. Like, is she going to be on the team? Is she not going to be on the team? Like, what's going on? Like, they just named a team, but then I don't understand, because I thought she was going to have another chance. Like, it's a very crazy mixed emotion thing when you're connected with other girls so personally.
Well, 4 years later, it seemed like everyone knew about Dominic Moceano's stress fracture all along. Bello was very open about it on TV. Now, you mentioned that you had a stress fracture at the Olympics as well, and it wasn't publicized as much. So at what point did you get injured?
It was during the training camps. I was fine through Olympic trials. It started to bother. It was very long. Like, in my mind, it seemed like months. But looking through it, probably was more like exactly a month or so. It felt like an extremely long time to be on hard surface. And we'd already had, American Cup, and we had the World Championships, and then we had the championships for the trials, and then we had training camps. It started bothering when we were in Florida for a camp, and then we traveled to France, and we were in France for another small camp, and then we went to Barcelona, and then we were there still training for a while. So it had started bothering a little bit. I can't say that I was very good at speaking up about it hurting a little bit, which is kind of, again, it's hard. I mean, again, as a coach, is probably one of the hardest things that we ever deal with is when are you complaining and when are you just telling them and making sure that they're aware so that it could be protected. But I was very clear that I didn't want the impression that I was less than 100%. It was even a hard decision for me to tape it at all, because I felt like that was basically like a flashing light of pointing arrows of, like, look, she's hurt. She's not at her best. Like, so if she's not at her best, then she shouldn't get her best scores. And that's, I think, how it was going through my mind. And I didn't want anything out like that.
With that injury, how confident did you feel heading into Barcelona? Was it something that was affecting you in training every day beyond just the physical effects? How was it affecting you mentally? I was not crazy about the fact that I wasn't able to put some full routines together. So that, I think, did shake I know it did shake confidence. So the routine that I had done at Olympic trials, I was, again, so proud of for floor, turned into a different routine, which even for event finals turned into a different routine. So it was hard to judge, like, what exactly, like, how hard do I go? Like, when it wasn't everything that I'd been working on up until that point. So there definitely was confidence, just honestly, with even just that specific routine, because I wasn't on autopilot anymore. And, I think that's probably the biggest thing about peaking. And that's the one great thing about having those extended period of time where it's under pressure and, consistency of, I mean, we've, shown it with our current national team with the great success of the program, is when you can get in autopilot, you're golden. Like, that's the best part about it, is, like, there's no more thinking. That was what was different for me, was, okay, so we're going to try these passes this time, even though we haven't been able to train that, and hope that it's going to work out right. So I felt like landings, I was more guessing where I was instead of, like I said, just kind of going on what I knew my body could do.
Well, your Olympics started with a fall on compulsory beam. It was shocking for everyone, I'm sure yourself included. So walk us through that day.
Gosh. Yeah, it was not the way that I would imagine it. Like, you always think through, like, what is the goal? The goal is to be an Olympian. And, like, I think you think Olympian and you go, everything's going to be magic from that point on. Like, why would anything go differently? I was very fortunate to have other great competitive success through my career. I can honestly say I don't remember the last time I had missed that skill. Like I said, it was in the compulsory, so it was the basic routine. Like, there's never really a thought of missing those routines. It's, again, how close can I get to 10? Like, we have to be striving for a perfect routine, not I hope I make it from beginning to the end. They were tricky in that they were just interesting skills and combinations, but they weren't our most challenging necessarily skills. But I think after I fell, which was like the first real skill of the whole routine, so it was less than 30 seconds into my Olympics. The rest of that day, like, talk about autopilot, that was autopilot, because I didn't remember the day. I was, again, the one thing I do remember was hopping down off the podium and, like, I'm sure with eyes like as big as they could be, like looking at Bella, who was, down on the floor, and he with like no emotion was like, turn the page, next one. Like, we're still going, you're still in this. And I still remember, like, that was so strong to me. I think had he not said like exactly what he said, the whole thing could have turned. But he had me believe, like, you don't give up. Like, you're totally still in this. And at the end of the day, I think having that and then being able to go into the team finals and qualifying to the all-around finals was my success of the Olympics, was being able to turn it on from that moment, and then having my best full all-around competition on the qualifying day was the big thing. But actually, when we came home from Barcelona, the first thing I did, that was back in the triple cast days where they had the million videos. Mm-hmm. So I'm like searching through all of, like, of course, our family friends who like put on the VHS, like million VHS tapes. So I was like searching back for it. That was my project. Like, immediately when I came home was I wanted to watch that day because I don't remember it. Like, I just went from that beam routine to, it had floor vaults and bars left, and I was in a daze. I went back to the Olympic Village, and I remember Betty actually coming in the back, like knocking on the door of the bathroom, was like, "Are you coming out?" Because I was just like, I think that was a workout. Like, I think that was podium training.
Yeah, like that wasn't it. That wasn't the real thing. Yeah.
That's not how that was going to go. Like, I've thought about this a lot, and that's not how this is going to go. Like, I'll do it again tomorrow. We'll do it again tomorrow.
Now, was there a moment after the fact when maybe you left the Olympics when it actually did hit you? Was it something where it just kind of started to be like, that was real? Or was it one moment where you woke up the next morning and you thought, oh my gosh, like, it happened, like, that was it? I mean, was there that aha moment in a negative way?
No, I mean, because at the end of the day, that wasn't it. It's funny because that's, I think, what people will remember. I mean, they put a nice picture on the cover of Time magazine, I think it was, like, Hurts or whatever it was, like,
Thank
but at the end of the day, it was like, it was the springboard. And again, I think it's how you look at it. I mean, it could be poor me that sucked and whatever, like, but it really wasn't that. Like, it was the springboard, I will say, to what I am today. Like, I can say that, it sounds very silly, but it created an environment for me to have, like, everything had to count. Everything had to count. So it went from that to, like, in the team final, which was the all-around qualifying day, like, the best beam routine in my whole life. Like, it went up there and I did a dismount that, like, landed vertically. Like, I hardly even bent my legs to stick. Like, just, I feel thankful that I had that opportunity. At the end of the day, I don't know that I would be coaching and living the wonderful life that I am right now, with still in it day after day and loving the fight and loving connecting to these girls, if it weren't for the fact that I had that crazy challenge that turned into this huge fight that felt so rewarding, that at the end of the day, the undoing for the all-around final was I jumped out of bounds on the floor. Like, it wasn't the big tragedy of, that I missed a skill. It was I downgraded a floor routine and wasn't on autopilot, didn't judge it right, and rebounded off the back of that line. And so that 9-7, whatever, took from being in the medals to being 10th place. So at the end of the day, like, it's funny to think people's perspective too on, like, remembering certain big moments and understanding, like, those are opportunities disguised. And you can either take it as a huge tragedy, or you can look and go, yes, but this created this wonderful thing. And like I said, I'm so thankful for the walking off that podium right after that fall. Bella's words to me, I think, springboarded me into the life that I have today, as silly as that sounds.
No, and I think it's a testament to who you are. In those moments, they really reveal more about a person than if things go easily the whole time and you have that, performance of your life, and then life just, it shows you who you are and what you're able to do with it. So it's very admirable.
Thank you.
Well, you speak about having the meat of your life and things, not being an autopilot for the all-around finals. At any point, do you feel like you expended yourself too much emotionally, having that peak night in optionals? Is it possible to repeat that 2 days later?
I think that's very possible. It took everything I had to qualify, and I knew that. I knew that I had to be my very most perfect. I'm thankful that I didn't do something crazy after I fell. Like I said, that's where preparation and being kind of in that mode definitely benefited me. And then 2 days later to be able to turn around and go no, I am fighting. Everyone is going to count, and there's no reason why I'm not doing everything to the best of my ability. It's going to happen. But at the end of the day, it was dig down deep, as far as I could go to pull that out. So who knows? I don't know if, one caused the other, but I will say that I choose to focus on that high, and I'm thankful for the lows. Because it gives me tools in life that I think are just as valuable as a gold medal.
Now, you didn't get to do your upgraded floor routine in the event finals. How was that decision made?
I just physically couldn't do it. I couldn't, and they're having to project. And by that time, we knew that there was something that mattered with my leg, and it was the suggestion from team doctor as well to you can't push. You're going to have to figure out, again, just very strategically, which workouts do you want her to do? Which tumbling can she handle with the least amount of practice? How many times does she need to go over that vault table? I never had that. I had the similar, I guess, with my wrists, but it was a blink. This one was more of this was weeks of feeling it myself, and then taking a long time for me to actually voice it. And like I said, it wasn't exactly the same, but that like I said, the Goodwill Games was kind of a spurt. I could at least squeeze it together really fast. This one was, how do you make it through a month when you have something already the matter? Which I hate to say, but unfortunately, it seems like that's more the normal than it is the rarity. So you have to kind of make do with what you have at the time, and if downgrading is the best option, it's what you got to do. But like I said, just as a person, it would have been nice to have had an opportunity to do the routine that I did at trials.
Well, one thing I've always wanted to know is why Bella wasn't more focused on you and Mary Lou winning the vault finals, because obviously your Chanko full was phenomenal. You got so many 10s on it. We saw you do a Cuervo in 1990, but in 91 and 92, you went into finals with a handspring front that looked like he didn't have you practice it very much.
Ever did. It was terrifying, actually. You know what? It's just, I think it was a part of the times. The deal was the all-around final. It was the all-around final. We didn't spend any time on that. Actually, I had the Cuervo before I had the Yurchenko full. So it's I had the Cuervo, and then as soon as I learned the full, they ditched the other one. It wasn't a priority, and I don't blame them. At the same time, I go oh, it would have been nice if that thing that I took years to learn, I would have kept and we see what it was. But at the end of the day, my goal wasn't to win vault. My goal was to be in the all-around final and be fighting for that medal. So I don't blame them, but it's just funny. I kind of I had the same random thoughts through the years of how hard would it have been to keep that ball? Maybe. And I just remember always feeling oh no, I've qualified for event finals. I still remember that for both those years. Oh God, I'm gonna have to vault again. Just so strange, because everything else was super prepared. We didn't go into anything that wasn't to the T. You knew what was gonna happen. But that vault was okay, let's do the handspring. I'm oh my God. I don't even remember where I start.
Now, after those Olympics, Kim, you chose to retire. How long was it before you went back into the gym?
Well, I went directly back into the gym. However, I didn't do training. Like, it was not, I mean, I still like think back to like years of interviews before, like, okay, what are your goals? And what do okay. And then I would say, my goal is to make a world championship team and then hopefully an Olympic team. And I would always follow it up by saying, and if I don't, that's okay. Then I'll be finished with gymnastics either way. And that was just the thing. But that was also what I saw, like, from the previous generations before me. Mary Lou did one, and then she kind of looked like she stayed for, like, another American Cup, but then she was done. And so, like, I guess to me, I was even thinking, I don't know that she even wanted to do that other one. Like, it probably seems like she could have been done. And I saw that again with the 88 generation. Okay, they go to an Olympics, they don't go to an Olympics, and they're done. Like, it just seemed more like the normal thing. So I never had my mind, like, set in a way that was a good possibility. I remember seeing Shannon continue, and even Carrie. Carrie even had to go to another coach because the Karolyis weren't coaching anymore. Like, it was just the strangest thing to me. Like, why would you do that? Like, aren't we supposed to check out, see what, like, normal life is? Yeah. Like, so I did the whole, like, check out normal life. I went back to public school. I still remember, like, going to my first football game and going, so this is what I was missing. Okay. Like, it was exciting at first, but you know what I mean? Like, but it just was
it's so different.
So I just kind of kept gravitating back into the gym, but I didn't have a schedule. I didn't have a coach. I didn't have anything. I mean, the Karolyis still had their gym there, but they weren't coaching anymore. They had publicly announced while we were at the Olympics that they weren't coaching anymore. I didn't have any other new goals to get in there with, but I would come from high school. I would drive myself back over there and, like, just start working out, like, a little bit at a time. We ended up starting doing more exhibitions and some shows. We did some stuff with Nadia Comaneci and Bar Connor, like some touring stuff. Most of the weekends while I was in high school was traveling with Bella, and we would do, like, a clinic, and I would do a floor routine, like, with some basic, like, timer passes or kind of moving around the beam. So we did that for a little while, and then it ended up when I was a senior in high school. I was on one of those trips. Actually, Katarina Witt had started skating again amateurly, and that came up in a conversation with Bella and me at the airport. He actually asked me, he's like, "Hey, Kimbo, do you want to go in this ice cream shop?" And I never will forget it, going like,
"Wait, what?"
Trick question. Like, I know I'm not really training, but I still feel like I should somehow say no. I think I did one of the, like, I'll follow you kind of looks, and we walked in, and he he opened the conversation. He was like, "So, Kimbo, what do you think? Like, would you like to do this again?" And I was like, "Yes, I miss this. Like, I'm kind of doing gymnastics, but I'm not really. I'm not crazy about an alternative to, what I'm doing right now." So we decided to start again. That's kind of how that came about.
Now, Dominic Moceanu said that Alexandrov was coaching at Bella's gym for a while there. So did he coach you? Did he teach you the Yurchenko 1.5? I mean, who was really training you?
So shortly, not shortly, my last exhibition was in Massachusetts, and I was doing a floor routine and did a big rebound out of a pass, not trying to land, just the goal was to go up high. It wasn't for scores, so I was just trying to be powerful, and I didn't bend my legs to land, and I hyperextended my knee, so I jumped back, and it went back in front, and I tore my ACL. That was, very shortly, maybe 2 months after I'd had the conversation with Bella of, okay, so I'm going to graduate high school, and then we'll get the ball rolling again. So that threw a big wrench into the whole deal of having to basically wait, especially back at the time, there was no shorter recovery. It's starting to get a little more efficient. But it was like 9 months until I was back doing things. In that interim, Bella kind of pulled back as far as like what he was doing, and Alexander came in. And so Alexander was kind of in there probably more during that time than Bella was.
So you were shown training after that as well. So how close to competing again did you get? Did you have routines on all of the events?
So with Bella and Marta, like I never got back into full gymnastics. Like I said, that was, I think, during the time that Bella was a little bit in and out too, and it was not the same as what I thought it was going to be. You know what I mean? Like I was a Karolyis gymnast my whole career. I didn't know anything different, so it was kind of different to have somebody else come in and work with me. And in some way, it felt a little disconnect of like, oh, I thought I was doing this with you. And I was never straightforward to like, hey, like, let's do this again. Because I felt kind of bad that I had this major injury, and I feel like I kind of screwed up the plans with kind of with how that went. But at the end of the day, I never wanted to go out because I never felt like I was going to win. Like, and I didn't remember feeling like that young, like when I was younger and going through it. It like I said, I didn't feel like it was a pressure until I started back again, and I refused to let myself go out. So I didn't actually end up competing again until after I did the 96 tour, and got to be great friends with Amanda Borden, and we had a break in the tour at the time, between I think like February and September, and neither of us were training to compete, so we were both kind of paranoid that we were going to get too far out of shape, like without having a team, without having a coach. So we kind of had joked about like, oh, we should just train together. And it was like, yeah, but you live in Ohio and I live in Texas. Like, neither of us had ever moved away from home. Like, why would we do it now? But then Mary Lou Retton, Amanda's coach, actually called Chris, who was my boyfriend at the time, and offered.
Mary Lou was working it. She was working this angle.
I think she knew what she was doing. No.
Yes.
But so Chris had worked for the Karolyis, and now they didn't have a gym. So it all ended up very good timing that they offered Chris the job, and I was like, I think you should take that, and I'm going to go too. So I ended up there kind of to finish out that string of being prepared for the tour. In that process, I actually realized, no, I think I'm over it. Like, I'm just going to go out there and I'm going to compete. Like, I love gymnastics and I want to get back out there. And I have a small window of my life left that I can actually make that happen. And so I did.
Now, you volunteered during the Atlanta Olympics, and the camera zoomed in on you looking misty-eyed watching that event. How difficult was that for you watching that?
I have to say, the last Olympics actually was, as terrible as it sounds, like it's the first one that I've watched that wasn't just so hard to watch. Like, as much as like I could remove myself and I am friends with or super fans of like the girls that have been on those teams ever since 1996, it just has been torture to watch. Like, it took me several years to even be able to go to I went to every national championships. Like, I actually have never missed one, even from when I started competing in them. I've never not been there. I've always been there in some fashion, had some role. But I would be hysterical crying. I mean, just like from missing being out there. Like, I just wanted, like, it was just hard to let go of. As much as, like I said, it's not like I thought that the people out there shouldn't be. I just, emotionally, it was very, very difficult to watch and not be there. I had a hard time watching it just straight up, like, as a fan or as somebody, doing. So that one in particular was difficult because I had been training through that last year. And I guess stuff of, just not being able to sort through, like, how I felt about having an opportunity that you don't realize, I guess, until it's past that, like, that was like this big of an opportunity, and it came and it went. And, like, whether it was wanting to do it again or wanting to do it different or whatever it was, like, while I was so happy and proud for those girls, like, it was hard not being on the floor with them.
Yeah.
Do you think you could have made that team if you let yourself go out there, maybe not being the star, but being like a table setter?
I don't know. There were events. I still felt like I had improved on floor. and beam. And bars had changed, like we'd, kind of started growing with that. I don't know. You know what? I really have never spent a whole lot of energy on that. It wasn't right at the time. It wasn't right at the time. Like there was a series of whether it started with my knee to coaching, how that was. Like it was just a different environment in the gym. To at the end of the day, like I wasn't in a place to make that happen. So I don't know.
What was it like watching Carrie do that vault? Coming down to her, you're usually in the anchor role, in those situations, having had such a long personal history with her training together. What was it like watching that?
Well, one of the hardest parts about watching that Olympics was I was there as an athlete rep, and that's why I was there on the floor too. It was just, the hardest part was that I know how badly she wanted to make the all-around finals. And obviously I was a part of that puzzle back in Barcelona. And again, being a very naive 16-year-old, didn't realize what my success was meaning to her. Like, I was absolutely not aware of that. I was thrilled that I was number 3, but she was number 4. So watching her through again, and having just stopped training that year, like, so Carrie had moved back to Houston. So Chris and I were good friends with Carrie through that whole thing, and kind of still tried to be her like normal people, but gym people friends, like through that, that hard stretch of making that second Olympic team. And for her to have qualified, but then not get to go, she was trying everything. It wasn't just like, oh, there's an injury. Oh, too bad, you're out. It was to the last minute of like, she would have run down that runway with one leg if she could have, to go into the all-around finals. So that vault landing was like, it was on 2 levels. Like, it was obviously the emotion of what it turned out to be was, being a part of the gold medal team. But at the same time, it also was like she had just solidified that other goal as well. So I think there was kind of a strange emotion of like watching that whole thing go down, of like, wow, like it was so spectacular, and she's a part of one of the greatest gymnastics moments there has ever been. To, oh my gosh, I think this is leading to her not being able to achieve that goal that she wanted so badly.
Now, you didn't compete in NCAA because you had turned professional. Do you ever wish that you had?
Now, possibly. It wasn't. NCAA gymnastics wasn't what it is, I feel like, today, and I'm so happy that there's been a turn in the tide of it being another amazing outlet for our elite athletes. Like I said, I was in the generation where it was try for Olympic team. If you make it, if not, you're finished. I was 16 years old, like without even a second thought of doing another day of gymnastics ever. Now we have girls that are, we're preparing them going, okay, this looks like it'll work, but will her body be able to last until she's 22? It's not even a second thought in my mind of like, all of these girls are going till at least they're 22. Not, we'll see what happens this 1 year of being a senior elite. So I think in looking at it now, I think it would be fun. Like it's like I guess I got the tour in its place. We did, I think, 88 cities of tour that 1 year, and plus another. Like, I'm very grateful for those experiences. Like, and I think our little group kind of ended up being my college team. But at the end of the day, I think like I said, I'm very envious of the girls that get to do it now.
Well, you talked earlier about wanting to come back and then kind of pulling yourself back because of that fear of not living up to where you were, just results-wise, previously. So what was it about 98 that really spurred that comeback?
Well, at the time I was living in Cincinnati, and I'm very grateful for Mary Lou Tracy for kind of opening my eyes to, okay, what is it that you like? Like, is it that you really, like, you just like to win? And I just remember being like, ugh, like, well, of course I'm competitive. I like that. But at the end of the day, like, she made it okay for me to, like, be who you are. Go do gymnastics if you like to do gymnastics. Do you want to learn more skills? Let's learn those skills. Do you want to be good on bars? I'm not good on bars. Do you want to be good on bars? Do bars. Like, you know what I mean? Like, to help me, it just gave me different different perspective, a different set of tools, a different set of goals, that just made me feel okay with, you go out there because you love what you do, and this is the environment that you get to do it in. I feel like there was kind of a different mentality that went in for those last couple of years of me doing gymnastics. And again, I was in my 20s. I know that there was a lot to do with me just, again, having a little change of growing up and realizing, no, okay, I have to make a choice here. Like, either get to do gymnastics for this short time and really take advantage of it, or move on, go do something else.
Well, you suffered multiple knee injuries again. So when did you have the moment when you decided to officially retire?
Well, that one unfortunately was body part driven as well. I tore my calf in June of, '99? June of '99, and then I ruptured my Achilles an inch lower in July. So it was went June and then July, kind of two, I would say it was I got shot in the leg once and shot in the leg twice. But honestly, I was engaged at the time. And so I still remember, I went to the doctor and they did the, test of squeeze on your calf and see if your foot is still attached and moves. And I'm looking back and my foot's not moving. And I remember rolling over and I said, so will I be able to walk in October by myself? And they looked at me kind of funny. I was like, so my wedding is October 23rd. I had it set for the week after World Championships. So I was like, okay, if everything goes best, say the best case scenario, I could, make this World Championship team, and then then I don't want to take off any time. We're literally get married, and then
go back to the gym. Yeah,
I got plans. So there was no second thought. I mean, even after the Achilles, I'm this is just a bump in the road. This is how this is going to work. Got married in October, started back into training, and the first double tuck that I did off of, it was on a takeoff, and it tore again in January. So, and that was January of 2000. And I still remember laying there going, okay, you gave it everything you have. You won't do that again. You're not going to get to do that skill again. It was just it was very at peace, but this sucks.
Rational. Yeah. Okay.
Moment, but it wasn't I'd never felt that way ever before of like I said, even after rupturing my Achilles, it was okay, so how long is this going to take? Okay, so I'll be back by this time. And it just seemed okay, I feel good. I feel good with this. I've done everything that I want to, and now I need to be responsible. My body is saying, okay, you're almost 24. It was a few days before I was 24, and said, it's time. And fortunately, I had just kind of started getting my feet wet and coaching up there in Cincinnati, and was pretty sure that was my passion to move forward with. So that's what I decided on.
Following your retirement, you also served as a judge for a little bit. So what were you like as a judge?
I loved judging. I really did. And again, I'm just very grateful that I was kind of, they held on to me. Mm-hmm. From being as soon as the Olympics were over, Kathy Kelly, who was the women's president, I'll not remember her title correctly, but she was our everything. She was in charge of the program, and just always I felt like kind of a mother figure to all of us athletes, even though she was an official role with USA Gymnastics. But she made sure that you are not going away. This is your thing. Don't go away. And so she pulled me in as an athlete rep, and then so I started coming to these events, and they started putting these papers in front of me of here are the symbols. This is how you write this. This is how you write this. Go ahead and try it. So I sit there, I'm
pushing you, yeah.
What are we doing? So it was a very natural thing. I was actually dumbfounded with how many rules there were that I didn't I wasn't aware of. So oh, I've done this my whole life. This should be easy. This is fine. I'll learn that scratch, whatever, that chicken scratch. So I'm learning all these skills of what the skills are. And then I got it. And I was oh my God, there's a lot of things that I never knew. But I'll say it was the first thing that I had done other than actually competing that gave me that same feel. Mm. And I liked that, just absolutely sitting there nervous that you cannot mess up. They work too hard to you can't miss a tenth. If it's their tenth to have, you better make sure you saw it. If they, if they have a deduction, you better separate them. Mm. So it was I really enjoyed it. I'll say the only reason that I actually stopped was because I knew that my first priority was going to be to my gymnast that I had myself, and so I did 1 year of trying to do both, of having gymnasts on the floor at championships and judging, and that's where I decided. I said I'm too invested in the personal side of like just wanting to be there for them to just sit behind the chair.
Well, you got to fulfill all of our dreams by being on the selection committee. So how much knowledge did you gain that you can share with your athletes now?
I definitely feel like I said, in all of these different roles, like there was so much to gain, and I'm so grateful. I mean, like being raised by the Karolyis and everything that they gave me, then having like a second career with Mary Lou Retton, that's just, a different perspective. Getting to compete at the highest levels, having success, and also, what people, say as failures, like of competitive results, getting to be athlete rep, getting to be on the selection committee, judging. I mean, like, all of those pieces have come together. I couldn't have asked for a better path just to give me all of these great experiences.
Well, Dominic Moceanu criticized you for not voting her petition through in 2006 when she didn't get the qualifying score. Now, obviously, you guys knew each other for a long time, and she's been critical of the women's program ever since. So why didn't the committee vote her through? Because I think this is something she seems to have never gotten over.
I'll say just that is personally one of the most difficult things for me, because Dominique, to me too, I'm several years older than her. This was a kid who was for me, felt like a kid coming in through the Karolyis program and wanting to be there for her, and obviously respecting everything that she'd done up to that point. I can still remember, like, even with the decision made, going, this feels awful. Like, this just feels awful. But at the end of the day, it was about being fair to the other athletes, and there were other athletes who had done the 4 events, who had the 2 events collected that were higher than hers, with those 4 events that had not qualified, and they had done the whole qualifying system as it is stated, of with the all-around system. So it didn't, like I said, to me it wasn't about is this do I want this for Dominique? It was is this fair for the whole group of athletes that are competing right now.
Well, for so many years, Bella was always in the spotlight, but Marta seems even more fascinating. So was she always secretly running the show when you were a gymnast? And with 2 strong leaders, what was their dynamic like in the gym?
Yes, she has always been the leader. She just was not the one who wanted to be out in the public. But she knew everything. She knew everyone. She knew what was going on at all times. Like, she's the one who did the organization of the plans, and this coach goes here and this is the rotation. She was exactly the role she is now with our gym. Like, and it was everything. She led beam and compulsory floor, but she was a part of everything. Like, she still was out there. I mean, she would come out there and she still did. It was the same way, because Bella would be leading the other events, and she would walk in and we would all like not be able to breathe. Like, the pressure.
Is Bella intimidated by Marta?
What's that?
Is Bella intimidated by Marta? So she is calling the shots in this marriage.
No. And I in no way mean that. Like, he is not. He is not intimidated by her either. They are the perfect match for each other.
Both, yeah. Both
personalities, but they stand on their own. And Marta even kind of jokes about that every once in a while. She's like, I don't have to be with him all the time. I don't, you know what I mean? Like, that they are 2 strong people that have a great thing going together. And it's always been like that.
Now, we always see that photo from camp of all the girls lined up and then Marta standing in front of them talking to them. What is she saying? Like, can you give us any insight? What's going on in those conversations?
Sure. I mean, there's always a lineup in the beginning of practice. There's always a lineup at the end of practice. It's to set the tone. It's to address any problems. She starts, basically of, where things are at, like what the expectation is for the day. If there's any problems that she has noticed that, she wants everybody to be able to address, but it's basically expectation in the beginning. And then who's going to be a great leader. And she looks to someone to see who, looks like ready to go, or raises their hand of, I want to lead the group today, to start the warm up. At the end of the practice, it's it's a good conclusion of, again, this is what I saw happen, whether it was a verification or if it was just a general practice, that she kind of does the rundown. If there are specific things that she thinks should be addressed as a whole, then she will address it then. If it's behavioral of like, we need to pick it up, or if it feels like we're behind the game, like we need to, increase the expectation, she voices that right then, and then dismisses everybody together. It kind of keeps the structure with it versus kind of a
just
in and
free
out.
For all. Yeah, people come in and
finish when you want, like kind of keeps that structure there.
Well, gymnasts talk about how stressed they are at the ranch, and even the girls who train there. There was training in Houston, and then when you moved to the ranch, things got real. So why on earth did you decide to get married there?
That's where we met. Chris and I met out there. Yeah, it was my last summer training out there. I was 19 years old. Chris was a coach for his summer camps first when he first went down there, and then they actually they had one job opening in their Houston gym, like the full year-round gym. Chris is the one that got the job, and so he ended up moving to Houston after that, and that's how we got to know each other. But that's why it's sort of like, well, we met here, and it's been a special part of, obviously, of my life before then, before we had met. But then even since then, it was where we were still ambitious to keep our successes growing there.
Now, break down the animal situation at the ranch for us, because we've seen the camels there. Are those still the same camels? Do they have them now? How long do they live for? I mean, how many different... Okay. Those are the camels.
I become a runner out there, and I'm not a runner. Like, it's so nice out there. Like, I enjoy it. I enjoy the little paths, but I go in a nice little figure 8, and I will not go farther because I'm a little bit terrified of, like, I do not want to run into something that I think may surprise me or can run faster than me, or has very sharp, pointy things coming off of its head. So I have to be honest, I don't.
You stay away from the camels.
The camels I like. Actually, okay. I just took a video of one of those at the last one because that's like, they're hysterical. Like, they will like stare you down and then just like walk up to you. Like, it's hysterical. Like, I don't know. It's funny. It's just funny still to me. I mean, like, there's peacocks. I mean, every once in a while my daughter has a small fascination with peacocks right now, and like we'll bring peacock feathers home, like
like from the ranch for her. I like that. Now, you spoke earlier about being so close to many of your teammates, and I think we all were so touched after Hillary's passing, reading her diaries in the Houston Chronicle. So how was she doing when she moved on to diving? What can you tell us about that point in her life?
We had stayed. We had stayed close during that time, because I think we were both trying to figure out what. It's just it's a hard time, I think, of any person's life, really, just the time frame. But especially when you've had like such high highs, like the both of us were so fortunate to have, and she had also big disappointment of feeling like she should have been on an Olympic team. But I mean, like, even after that, I have to say, like, it was amazing to me, Hillary's involvement for me at the Olympics. Like, I've talked several times about it to the trainer who, like, she was in constant contact with, because she actually told her, she goes, I can tell there's something the matter with her. Like, Hillary was like catching on to this already, like, without having any contact back from Barcelona, that there was something going on. Like, she was just such a caring, giving person. Was the first person I saw coming home. I mean, she was standing there was a welcome, and she was the first person to greet me off the airplane, and like, just such a sweet, sincere person. It was hard that she wasn't actually able to to take advantage of doing college gymnastics, because she had done very, very small amount of professional gymnastics, and so had decided to move on to diving. And I was so thankful that she had connected with such great people. So she was happy with that, but I think still some mix of, like, you know what I mean? Like, is it her passion? Is it the thing that she moved on to? Yeah. I don't know. But at the end of the day, like, she was always such a positive person. Like, I look back and I feel bad, because I feel like I was the one who was always dumping of, like, this is bad, this is awful, I can't believe this ever, this, whatever, like, because I always think back of, like, she was just always so uplifting and so positive person, and was happy with the life that she was moving on to, with the diving and a boyfriend and, you know, all different things that I had never experienced either. But I mean, it was just, ironically, I was back in Houston that weekend too. But I don't know, I still miss her. I think about it often. It's hard, especially because, like, I still see, like I said, I saw 2 of my teammates in the last 2 days. I'm supposed to see another one this weekend, and she will always be missed, that's for sure.
Well, on a brighter note, you have a few gymnasts with Olympic dreams of their own this summer. And last season, Bailey Key was considered a virtual lock for Worlds, right up until the selection camp, when she apparently had trouble on bars. So how disappointing was it for her to not make Worlds?
Well, I think it was hard to leave or go from championships. I really felt like she was in a really great place. She had, you know, the name of the game right now is the 3-up 3 count for the team final. So you can, although she was 4th in the all around, like, it still felt like the biggest deal was, that she was 3rd on floor and 3rd on bars. So really wanted to pursue that. She's always been a beamer, so it felt like, you know, her consistency should definitely help the team. So I mean, I won't lie that it was very hard, but I think it was almost harder on me because not that it didn't mean anything to her, but I felt like it was responsibility to get her there because I could see that she was capable of doing it and was doing absolutely everything in her power to make it happen. But for her, she was amazing. Like, she was amazing. She was named as someone to, like, a replacement alternate. So, like, not a traveling alternate, but someone that, like, so we were asked to stay at the camp an additional couple of days. And, like, I was very frustrated at the outcome. I wasn't happy with it, but Bailey got better and better every day we were there. Like, it just was, like, it made, like, I just remember, like, going, like, you have to be better for her when this is happening. Like, it was just amazing. And we've always taken the alternate roles very seriously. And I have to say that I've coached a lot of girls in similar roles of going, like, you never wish something bad to happen to someone, but there is reality, and that's why you're asked to stay. Like, you have to be here. Like, if you're going to be here, like, do it. And she took it as, I'm in the best shape of my life, and I'm going to keep getting better. I mean, to the point of, you know, Marta coming over going, oh, gosh, like, she's, again, like, kind of looks like she's almost on another up climb. I mean, there's so much of that happens in gymnastics that it's not that you reach a point and then that's just the gymnast that you stay. I mean, it definitely goes like this, and you have to ride the waves because you can't stay all the time on that same peak. But she kind of, after even the verifications, like, kept going up, including when we came home. Again, we were asked during those first days that they had already traveled overseas, okay, stay in shape. If, you know, something awful happens, then we would, you know, choose between them, Alyssa and Bailey, like, who would feel the needs of the team. And I gave her an out 2 different times to, like, let's go with, like, a safer routine, like an easier floor routine. Like, well, definitely, like, let's stay in shape, but let's do with the one that you had done earlier in the year, not this one that was this, like, super challenge. Just let's be safe and protect your body a little bit. And she both times said, no, I'm ready for this, and this is what I need to do. So I knew at that moment, like, she is in the best place of all. Like, she's forward thinking. She's, again, not resting on that this didn't happen. And I really have never, through all of this, I've never seen her get to that slump of, it didn't happen last time, it's not going to happen sometime in the future. Like, she's been very proactive to what she can do now and how she can get better.
Now, recently she missed a few competitions due to a back injury. What is the status of that injury?
Well, we decided to be very aggressive with staying out of that first season because it was a longer one. It just looked like if she was gonna have to be up for that long, that if she could make it through that, then this short down period, like I was saying in the, you know, earlier, that there's naturally this little, like, oh, okay, I just competed. Have to kind of, like, shake it off and, like, all right, ready? Let's, you know, try to start climbing again. I just felt like if we were going to try to squeeze her too hard right now, that her little breath was going to be a low breath, like had to come down too low from just like trying to push through it. They've been trying to address it, but she's in a good place right now. We've had a really, really good last week. So she's just building step by step, just one thing after the next, and trying to stay very present. Know that we're squashed into a tight window right here, but just stay present and do the best that you can today, and leave the gym feeling the accomplishment of what you do right, so that you can come back tomorrow and feel like you can take another big step forward.
Well, recently Marna said it would be difficult for a gymnast to make the team who didn't compete in the winter, and then right as that happened, Maggie Nichols had a knee injury. So there is a potential opening for vault and floor worker. And we've seen Bailey train at Pike's Double Arabian on floor, and we know she's been training in Aminar for years. So what is the status of those upgrades for her?
Well, I mean, to address what you said in the beginning too, I think that there's different gymnasts that need to prove different things at different times. At the end of the day, it's going to be, I feel like, who is on and up. That's like even last year is the best example of Bailey was second place at the competition in Italy, and there was that at the end of the day wasn't the key to making it at the World Championships. So not that there isn't something important for it. Actually, my other gymnast, Reagan Smith, did exactly what I feel like she needed to do, was to show like that she can transition from being a junior with potential and some good results to can you play with the senior team? And she did exactly what she needed to. Like, I feel like she needed to have this first season, and she had a successful meet in Italy and then a successful meet at Pac Rim. But Bailey, I feel like, is in a different boat, just the same as I feel like some of these other girls are, that they have shown that they have good competitive result. They have great international quality. Judges score them well when they go out. So I feel like she's in that place right now with a couple of, handful of those gymnasts that have had, maybe not the exact season that, is written on paper. But at the end of the day, if they're doing their thing come championships and Olympic trials, that they can be a part of the team.
Now, do you see her doing those upgrades, going for the 2.5 on vaults and putting it all?
It's still obviously, I mean, it's ironic you said that, because I turned to her today and I was like, you still keep that right here, right? That is still the plan, right? And she's like, did a big yes, like that is still the plan. So, obviously right now it's a race against the clock. But the good news is that, again, all that gymnastics is still in her. So I keep trying to remind her, I was like, you own 100% of this. You are the best gymnast that you've ever been this January. That last training camp that you went to, I said, that is all still there. Every bit of the great improvements on the skills and every bit of the upgrades are all there. Just we have to be, again, patient to make sure that we're taking the right steps to get her there, and that this right here has everything as crystal clear as it was in January.
How much are Reagan and Bailey pushing each other for a spot on that team? Do you see that in training?
Yes, I mean, there's a couple of them. Even our other juniors, they all contribute to the environment of the team. And I remind them of that daily, of like their role of like, you have a blessing in having teammates that is also a responsibility, because you guys are all controlling what the energy level is, what the environment is, what the I can do it is, what the oh my gosh, do we have to do another one is. Like, that's, you guys all feed off of each other on that. And I have such a differing personality and strengths group of girls that they definitely help each other. One is more consistent. One of them is a little quicker. One of them is, can get their teamwork done faster. Like, so they all have that to be able to bounce off of, where are you trying to hold the standard? And if you're not, make sure you're at least trying to keep up with it. Bailey and Reagan are again, they're very different athletes, but they're all striving for the same thing. And the one thing they have that they're consistent with is what they want to get from their workouts, and that's for each of them to be their best.
Now, Reagan seems to have that firecracker personality that Bella would love. How much confidence has she gained over the past few months? Have you seen that play out in training as well?
Yeah. Yes. I think over the last year has been like just everything step by step was exactly what she needed. She had a great summer last year with winning beam and floor. third in the all around was a big deal. That she was consistent on all 8 times she went up on the events. We went back to the ranch and we had an opportunity. She was an alternate for another meet, and she actually ended up having the highest score, which, like, again, there are little things that were like big confidence boosters for her. And then as she, turned the corner into becoming a senior, with the change of the calendar, she was very ambitious to be a part of the seniors. Yet she's still very 16 or 15, actually. I was because she's not even till a little bit later this year. Marta even commented after she had won beam at Pac-Rim that she said it's kind of nice to see a bubbly, just, this is her natural, like, her age. Like,
yeah.
Here we have so many veterans that are on the team and trying to repeat and everything. That Reagan is just, everything is like, wow, that's so cool. Like, everything, it's still very new and interesting, and it's very genuine. And so she's definitely riding the wave of that energy.
Well, speaking of athletes showing off on Instagram, we have seen Reagan training that Patterson dismount off beam for a good year now, and we know she can do a pike double Arabian on floor. So will she be upgrading for the trials?
Well, the plan is for that Arabian. She actually, there's the thing with these bigger skills. I mean, they take a while, and I know that I've gotten from how Marta and Bella have trained me of, you put it in only if you're, like I said, you're 99% certain it's going to be there, whether it's the skill consistency or just even watching their body language of that they know they have it, they're attacking it. Reagan has wanted this double Arabian in there for a year. I mean, like, she's wanted it in there. I mean, like, she keeps asking, and this, can I try it? Can I this? And like, okay, it's not quite ready, but she's verified it a couple of times successfully out at camp with the success of what she just had with 4 days of competition, all scoring above 15. Just this last 2 meets there again. So hopefully the confidence of that routine is exactly where it needs to be to add in one more challenge, because sometimes it can be tricky that you think it's only that skill that it will affect, but a lot of times it ends up affecting the confidence of the whole routine. So I'm hoping with those 4 times out that everything else feels really secure, so that she'll just be ready to add that one in. We're playing with something on floor that I'm not sure. We'll see if it's a this year or a next year thing. With a punch front out of the triple and a little different bar combination that gives her another 10th. So she's looking at seeing where those are, but still at the end of the day, it's can you be counted on? So I still will end up making the decisions, and Chris making the decisions based on how consistent they are.
Well, after spending so much of the interview speaking about your career and your experience at the Olympics, what would it mean to you now to coach an athlete onto the Olympic team?
It would be amazing. I mean, I think it's a life experience. It's something that, again, I think it's only been since all of this time has passed that I've really gotten a real grasp of what it means. It's amazing for the question to come up over and over. Oh, you're a gymnast. Like, did you do any Olympics? And you can say yes. When you have girls who train like an Olympian, I would really feel super fulfilled to be able to know that they have that same thing. But at the end of the day, they're a success. And so it always feels a tricky question, because I'm very thankful for what it is, and I'm very thankful for what society has made the Olympics be, because ultimately it is what it is. It separates that from everything else. But at the end of the day, they train like them. And I can't say that I would be more proud of them for that accomplishment than I am for the person that they have become in the quest of becoming that. And how amazing it is to dedicate your life to something that you love, even though it is amazingly difficult, and you give up things that people don't think are giving up. But at the end of the day, I think they look past it, because it doesn't compare to what it feels like to be able to dedicate that your life to something so fulfilling as, again, making these art projects together. So yes, I think at the end of the day, it would be amazing. In some way, I feel like it's almost responsibility, because I see how hard they work to be able to make the right choices. But I still say at the end of the day, I want all of these girls, having the national team camps and everything together and knowing the coaches that are involved. Like, I just want all of the athletes to be in a healthy state, that they are able to go out and really fight for it. And that the best team will be chosen, that we can all respect each other and cheer for whoever it is, because we know at the end of the day, it's this whole group that will eventually have made this team what it is. Because when I say that there's legitimately like 11 or 12 girls that like absolutely have a right to say that they could be and they should be and that they are on that list of hopefuls, that 100% of them are pushing the team that ends up being those 5 to be what they are, because it's so tight between them, and they really could, I think, on any given day kind of flip-flop back and forth on which would be the best one. So like I said, the being proud of, it happens already anyways.
Well, we know that you give your gymnasts charms for their Pandora bracelets for every big achievement. So what do they get if they make the Olympics? Are we talking 2 charms for the bracelet? Like, I want to know what we're getting here.
Oh my gosh, I have never thought that through. I'm telling you, we don't talk about this stuff. Like, it's funny, all this stuff that started happening recently of like, everything is so Olympic driven. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. We'll take it one day at a time.
Well, as we wrap up the interview, Kim, we want to ask you a couple of fun questions. So we know that Betty used to be able to translate the Romanian that the Karolyis were saying, kind of some of the shade that they were throwing at you before they figured it out. So what is the best thing that she was able to translate for you guys? Do you remember?
No, unfortunately, to be honest, most of the time when they were talking, they were not talking about us. As insulting as that felt.
Yeah,
but it
ego needs it. Yeah.
Like what was going to be for dinner or whatever. I remember always thinking that. We're like, okay, we always feel like they're talking about us, like, especially when you're not speaking English. But I don't even have a memory of something that they said that we were appalled that it would have been about.
Well, Marta is always seen in her gymnastics warm-ups, kind of like Sue Sylvester on Glee. So have you ever seen Marta in everyday clothes, and what is her style like?
Yes, she is very fancy, actually. Yes, I don't know. She has a wonderful sense of style, and always is very perfect and put together. It's actually funny because when we travel internationally, like, it's almost like everybody wants to, like, okay, we're gonna have to sleep on the plane. Let's make sure that we're wearing like Uggs and like some kind of casual clothes and everything. And she always is so perfect. She doesn't even travel with her backpack. Like, we're always with USA, like, backpack, like the team, everything team apparel. And she always has this nice, beautiful purse. No, yeah, it's funny that you say that because I actually don't think of her like that. Okay. Back in the day, like, they didn't always wear like gym apparel in the gym. I guess like she sometimes was wearing a little bit nice casual things.
So now we know that Bella, when he's not in the gym, he likes his hunting, he likes his animals. What does Marta like to do? Do you insight into her hobbies?
Well, I know she goes into town. Always know she lives out on the ranch. That she goes into town and gets her nails and her hair done and does shopping trip. Always with her daughter Andrea. She goes on a daily walk actually every day. I mean, she's super fit. I mean, like, it's just amazing. Like, to remember, like, she definitely doesn't look her age. Like, I will say, I hope that I can keep that up. But she is religious about that walk.
No.
And she loves canasta. I would say she's actually gotten a lot of the national team coaches and staff to do cards at her house at night. That's her thing. Yeah. And she has to win.
She has to win. Yeah, you let her win, honey.
That day, I mean, we're always like, okay, like, please let Marta win. And she loves to announce it too. It's pretty funny. She'll come through. We won. It's funny.
Now, it is clear that Rhonda Fain is one of Bella's favorites, but even Rhonda has told me that you are the clear favorite of the Karolyis. So is Andrea Karolyis secretly jealous of you because she never got any 10s or won any medals for that?
No, I'm certain not. No, nobody would feel jealous of that. But no, I don't know. I think I grew up with them. I I was very sincerely myself, and we've talked about that. I definitely did the whole teenage stuff with them and have come through it, and I've apologized since then. I've said stuff to Marta of like, I'm so sorry I was like that. And it's funny, like her reaction is always like, I don't understand. Like, you had to be like that. Like, you had to be a little spunky. You had to like have a little fight of like, no, I know better. I this and that. Like, it wasn't disrespectful. It just was like very opinionated. But I know I was definitely myself. So if they like me still, that's
a good thing. They like the true you. Now, who does the best Bella and Marta impression? Do you know anyone who does a really good impression of them?
Oh gosh, I don't know. No, I don't.
Okay.
It's funny because I think that people will start doing it and then it starts sounding Russian. Actually,
Give me 2 drinks. I can do it.
I think that's more Russian than Mediterranean.
Well, we know that you're fiercely competitive. So how do those instincts reveal themselves now?
I think it's just in general that I can never be wrong, and that's just but but you know what, outside of my life, like I don't do like cards, like actually that's a good example, because I actually like the game Canasta, but I'm like, when we finish workouts, like I can't do it. Like I hang actually with the guys in Bella, like I feel kind of silly, but fortunately, recently there's been a couple of other female coaches the younger coaches that have stayed with me. But I've always for years been the like, Kim's hanging out with the guys, and because I'm like, okay, I'm not going in there and playing cards. Like playing cards is not fun. Like,
oh, hey, yeah.
I feel like it's a task to win, and I don't want to. I don't even want to mess with that after we finish a long day of practice.
Now, which teammate, you talk about being competitive, which teammate pushed you the most? Like, was there one teammate that really knew how to kind of get under your skin in a good way?
Probably Amy Shearer was probably the most consistent, just aggressive person that I've ever been around. And competition wasn't her favorite thing on the planet to do, and I just, we've talked about it over and over since. But as far as like someone who positively did, because it was never, she was really in her thing. She was always, the one on the side cheering for everybody, like to, make the routines and pull harder or whatever it was. But she probably was the best inspiration because, like I said, it was so sincere, and I just always strive to be more consistent like she was.
Well, NBC was known for their dramatic fluff pieces back in the 90s, and you were in quite a few of them. So what is the weirdest stage thing they ever had you do?
Gosh, I should have been prepared for these.
I remember you on the swing, going back and forth. Yeah.
Oh, no. Okay. For the HBO special, I did do it. Well, I guess it wasn't NBC fluff, but they had me, like, my brother was played baseball, actually was pitching through high school. But they had us do, like, he threw the ball at me in my front yard, which was not very big, my front yard. And I hit the bat, and I hit the ball with the bat and, like, pretend ran around, like, my yard like I made a home run. Like, I still remember being like, did we just do that?
It's kind of like you guys do that every Saturday afternoon, right? Like, family baseball in the front yard.
Yeah, exactly. I just remember, that one was kind of awkward. And the actual for real wake me up with turn the lights on, that I was mad the whole day. I will never forget that I was like, why did you agree to that? I was truly sleeping, and they had my dad open the door, turn the light on, and like, hey, Kim, it's time to get up.
With the
and
camera,
I was furious the whole day, because like my eyes were like crazy, like, so I opened my eyes like I couldn't see, like like that one was a for real shot, and I was not cool with that. I was like, you never wake me up, I have an alarm, what are you doing, why did you turn the light on? It's like, that's what they wanted me to do. Like, I don't know.
Well, our final question, if hell exists, do you think it involves more of compulsory beam or more of training on even bars in general?
Oh God, that's tricky, because I have to say, I actually really, really like both. Like, bars actually is my favorite thing, like, now. It's like, I love it. And I think I liked compulsory beam. I just had a really crappy one time doing it. But I would say if hell existed, it would have been toe front half. Like I'm gonna just leave it at that. Like toe front half on bars. I just was kind of upside down, messed up. Yeah, I'm just gonna leave it at that. Like that's what I'm gonna say is my.
That's your Hal, your gymnastics Hal.
That's.
Well, Kim, this was such a pleasure. Thank you for coming on the skating lesson, talking about your career, your athlete's career. We're going to be rooting for you guys this year, this summer, and fingers crossed for everyone.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I've really enjoyed it.